Welcome to the Get Published podcast, sponsored by Brodie Consulting Group. To get more information about our coaching, publishing, executive ghostwriting, and podcast production services, go to getpublishedpodcast.com. Hello, I am Paul Brodie, and thank you for joining us for another episode of the Get Published podcast, where we help authors get published with a proven system that works. Today, we're being joined by Teresa Spelman, author of Same World, New Mind. Teresa, welcome to the show.
How you doing, Paul? Thanks a million. It's great to be here.
Well, we are looking forward to it. Are you ready to get started?
I am ready.
All right. Question number 1. What is the one piece of advice that you would give to a first-time author who is currently writing their book?
So I would say get it done. Just, there is no tomorrow in terms of life. And if it is something that you want to do, I would say just sit down and write the book. Forget about the distractions and get it done. I would also say research the genre that you're writing in as well. It's very important to see what's out there. Not to compare yourself, but just to see what's out there and what style as well is current at the moment.
Well, and I think you hit the nail on the head, just talking about just do it. Just get started. Because, as Lao Tzu said, the journey of 1,000 miles begins with the first steps. Just get started.
There you go, Paul. And also, done is better than perfect. That's my new motto. It's like, just get it done, Teresa, every day. Yeah, seriously.
I'm laughing because that's always the thing I talk about. It's done is better than perfect, and don't be afraid to take the plunge. Just get it out there and get started.
Exactly, and learn to love failure. Like, I love my failures now and all the mistakes I've made over the years, And it's given me great confidence as well to go, feck it, there you go. But I have it done and I've achieved my goal as well, which feels really good,
Absolutely. Well, what do you feel is the hardest part about getting published?
I think getting published, if you have a product, a book that you have faith in and you have confidence in, it's then a waiting game. I think send out your book to as many people as you can, many publishers as you can, or self-publish as well, which also you can do. But I think in that sense, I wouldn't look at it as something that's difficult, but more something that's a challenge and something that's to be embraced as part of the whole writing of the book. But again, it comes back to the first question, write the book, get the book done. I wouldn't worry too much about all the rest of it. Like, for example, editing. Absolutely, there's professionals there to edit it, market it, all the rest of it. What we have to do as writers is actually get the book finished.
Well, let's talk about marketing. So please share a marketing strategy that you have used in your book launch that has worked well.
When I finished the book, Same World, New Mind, and I self-published it, I wrote to local newspapers. And I sent my book to the newspapers, I sent them to magazines, and I asked if I could write an article around the same time as the book was being launched. So this worked perfectly. It got me. I run retreats as well. My genre is well-being and health. So, and one of my goals is to free people from suffering. So I do that through writing and through retreats that I do in Galway. And by doing a newspaper article and getting interviewed, having a double-page spread in newspaper, and then writing an article on the topic itself, it just drew in more people, and it was a great marketing strategy as well.
So how did you pitch it when you're sending your book to these newspapers and to these magazines? Were you also sending a note about it saying you'd love to contribute? What was your strategy as part of your reach out?
So I would send in a cover letter along with my own book as well. So I'd send them a copy of the book and a letter just saying my own background and what I'd come from in terms of the book and what it was about and how we could share it with others and help people. And then I would offer to write an article as well based around a topic, for example, eating disorders and how to overcome an eating disorder. For the newspaper article, we had an interview for about 2-3 hours and we spoke about different things like stuff I'd struggled with in my 20s, like panic attacks, depression, all that kind of stuff, and how I'd overcome it and how that can inspire people also to overcome it and then read the book and get your inspiration,
That sounds like a solid pitch too. So were you talking about like, hey, I could write like 500 words, or were you just going, hey, I can write about this, this, and this. If it's a fit, then would love to explore further. How was your
Yeah,
approach to closing that?
it was very much I got in touch with an editor and I sent her directly. I got to know who was in charge. That's very important. Again, as a writer, do your research. If you know somebody that you think this is the person to send it to them. I always do that. I do my research very much beforehand, and I see who's the correct person to send a book to before I'd send it out. So that's what I did, and I wrote to this lady, and I explained my situation, about the book, and the journey I'd been on as well. And she was really interested in the journey. And I explained to her I'd love to write an article on an eating disorder. And so she came back to me and said, yeah, we'd love you to do that. And they gave me a 2-page spread in the magazine. And as a result of that, you got people buying the book, you got people coming on retreats, and I got to share what I love to do as well, which is great.
So your strategy with both the newspapers and the magazines was specifically go to the editors and then pitch what you could bring to the table. Is that right?
Exactly. Yeah. And send them your book,
That is brilliant. I love that game plan. And the fact is you did your research. You didn't just send it out and hope for the best. You specifically targeted who you're going to talk to, exactly how you can help. And oh, by the way, here's an autographed copy of my book.
Yeah, exactly. So you offer them all that, and if it's something you love doing, then it's not a problem,
Exactly. So, and with your retreat too, so that was the back end, right? So the front end's the book, the royalties, but from the business perspective, it was getting people for your retreat. So tell us a little bit more about your retreat and how you created that.
Exactly. And they're all tied in as well, Paul. The writing is exactly what I would share on retreat as well. And I would use the book. I mean, how I now sell the book is when people come to stay on retreat, the book is there and it's something that's used as a kind of an introduction to myself. Instead of me going on and sharing half an hour about myself, they can read about what I've been through and where I've come to and how they can get there too,
Perfect. So what would happen is from that point, there'd be like an invitation for them to attend the retreat or to get more information, and then they would connect with you from that point?
Yes, some of it, but some of it would be, when they come to actually stay, the book will be there for them to read. And I would suggest that they'd have a read over it so that they can get to know what would go on retreat and
Gotcha.
A bit about my background as well, and then generally they would purchase it as well when they go home. So
perfect. Well, speaking of books, I'd like to know what is your favorite book and what was the number one thing that you learned from it?
So one of my favorite books, and there are many, would be The Untethered Soul by Michael A. Singer. I learned from this book every day. But one of the most important things I learned was that his intention for the book was to free people from their limits. So that would be my own intention for writing a book, to be honest, would be to free people from suffering. So whatever I can do. When you pick this book up, for example, I don't know if you've read it, Paul, have you? The Untethered Soul.
I have not.
I haven't. Okay. It's a great book. But if you pick it up every day, you find something new to inspire you. So I think what I learned from this type of book was, firstly, write about what you know. That's very, very important. And as a result of that, then share that with others.
Excellent. And for a final question, what is your favorite quote and why?
So my favorite quote is, "It is better to travel well than to arrive," by the Buddha. And as with all of life, I mean, if you enjoy writing, get down and do it. And don't worry so much about getting published and the marketing and the editing and all of that. There's professionals for all of that kind of work. What we need to do as writers is to sit down and actually write the book, and then let the rest happen as well. Do your work, do your research, keep going, and don't be afraid of rejection. But keep going, keep enjoying all of the process,
Well, Teresa, I want to thank you for being a guest on the show. What is the best way for people to find you online?
So one of the best ways is to look up The Willow Retreat. It's www.thewillowretreat.com, and you'll find me there.
Well, Teresa, thank you once again for being on the show, and I wish you all the best in your author journey ahead.
Thanks a million, Paul. Lovely to talk to you.
Thanks again for joining us today. To learn more about how you can be featured in our brand new Get Published business book, go to getpublishedpodcast.com.